Good news, Italian and adventure bike fans. In this video we're comparing the new Aprilia Tuareg 660 with its two closest competitors, the KTM 890 Adventure R and the Yamaha T7. Hi, I'm Francois from AdventureBikeTroop.com, and in this video we're going to compare the new Aprilia Tuareg 660 adventure bike with the Yamaha T7, probably its closest rival, and the KTM 890 Adventure R. You might be asking, why is the KTM in this? But you'll see later on that there are some similarities with the Tuareg 660. And it's probably placed somewhere between these two. Now, we don't have prices yet, so the Yamaha is at $9,999 in the US, whereas the KTM is quite a bit more expensive at $14,199. So the Touareg is probably going to be somewhere in between, hopefully more towards the Yamaha side. If we look at the engines, it's got a 660 parallel twin engine. Twins are becoming popular after they've ditched all the singles due to emission standards. So we've got a 660cc engine, slightly smaller than the 689cc of the Yamaha T7, but it's both much smaller than that 890 KTM. Power. That's interesting. It delivers 80 horsepower versus Yamaha's 73.8 horsepower, so 8% more from a slightly smaller engine. And we'll see why, and why I think why. And the KTM is way above 105 horsepower, so we're probably not going to compare it with that. Then the torque, it's slightly more than the Yamaha at 70 Newton meters versus Yamaha's 68. The KTM again 100 Newton meters. But if we look at the two smaller bikes here, slightly more for, torque, but almost the same, but 8% more power. So that has to mean it's going to rev higher. I mean, if you look at horsepower, that's a function of engine speed and torque. So if the torque's the same, it has to have a higher engine speed to deliver more power. If we look at weight, this was a bit sneaky from Aprilia. They gave us dry weight 412 pounds. Yamaha quotes a weight of 452 pounds. KTM 464 pounds. So it's close to the Yamaha. No, it's much lighter than the Yamaha, but it's a dry weight, so we can't compare it. But if you take into account, it's got an 18-liter fuel tank. So let's say 7.5 kilograms per liter. That's about 30 pounds for a full fuel tank. And let's say another 10 pounds for oil and other fluids, and that brings us almost exactly to the 452 weight of the Yamaha. It could be less depending on the oil capacity. So now we can calculate the power to weight ratio. So 0.16 for Yamaha, 0.18 for the Aprilia Tuareg 660, with the KTM 0.23. We can also calculate the power per cc, and this is quite interesting. The Yamaha is 0.11 horsepower per cc, KTM is 0.12, and with the Touareg, the Aprilia Tuareg 660, also 0.12, but if we don't take rounding into account, it's slightly higher than the KTM. So there they are almost exactly the same, with the Touareg slightly more powerful for the engine, which I don't like, because the more stressed the engine is, the more power you squeeze out of a smaller engine, the less reliable it's going to be. And if you want to see about Italian bike reliability, look at the link below. I wrote a post on it. It was quite interesting to do the research. It's not conclusive, but anyways, go check it out if you are concerned about Italian bike reliability. And then, incidentally, I did a KTM one as well. There's a video on the KTM reliability which you can check out. I promise I didn't choke because I said KTM and reliability in the same sentence, and it wasn't on purpose. Anyways, now's a good time to mention my Buy Me a Coffee account or Buy Me a Gallon of Gas account. If you want to help me fill up the tank of the XR650L for future videos, please check out the link on the screen and in the description below. And thank you so much for everyone that has contributed so far. I really appreciate it. Incidentally, I also did a video on KTM bike reliability, which you can check out somewhere on the screen up here. So now let's look at the dimensions. So the ground clearance 240 millimeters for the Aprilia Tuareg 660, exactly the same as the Yamaha T7. Not the highest off the ground. This bike is much higher off the ground. I think it's 330 millimeters. Anyway, so the KTM is in 264 millimeters, so higher than the two smaller bikes. If we look at the seat height, it's got the lowest seat height of all the bikes here at 860 millimeters, with the T7 at 874 and the KTM at 880, quite high. So it's going to be slightly more comfortable for the average height or rider. If we look at the suspension travel, and this is where it gets closer to the KTM, well, almost exactly the same. 240 millimeters of suspension travel, front and rear. That's quite a lot, with the Yamaha 210 in the front and 200 millimeters in the rear. Then, if we look at the usability of the bike, so for touring, that's what these bikes are used for. One of the downsides of the T7 for me is that 15.9 litre tank. At least it's better than this old 10.8 litre tank, but it is still smaller than most of the competition. The KTM has a 20 litre tank, whereas this Aprilia Tuareg 660 has an 18 litre tank, so that's quite good. It's almost the same as the KTM. Now let's look at the features. Well, they all have 21 and 18-inch tires, front and rear, wheels, rears, front and rear, but the Aprilia Tuareg 660 has tubeless tires, front and rear, same as the KTM 890 Adventure R, whereas the Yamaha still use tubes. The Aprilia Tuareg 660 has a lot of electronics similar to the KTM, so it's got state-of-the-art traction control, engine braking, 4 rider modes, 2 of which are customizable, switchable ABS for either rear or both wheels, and cruise control. Did I miss something? Okay, so there you have it. Limited details. This is what we have currently. There's a lot of photos out. I love the look of it. It looks like that old Touareg 600 Wind from the 1980s. Same type of colors. It's a nice aggressive Dakar style, the older Dakar style look, which I think a lot of people are going to like. Will it do as well as the Yamaha and the KTM? Who knows? Anyways, once it comes out, and if you do order it, please let me know. I'd love to find out. I'll probably not see one in the near future where I live. But anyways, thank you for watching, and yeah, let's see what happens.